You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Cody, in talking through Houston State open up Big 12 play in basketball, we also start talking about football because it's hard to not talk about football. Jason Brooks is now a Houston Cougar, and you sound a little beat up about it when I talked to you about it. And I want to ask first, what can you tell me about Jason? And then B, how did Houston luck into getting this guy? I think he's kind of good.
Well, not that a 3-9 record is going to be indicative of the backup talent, but Jason Queso Brooks was the backup guard. And here's the most frustrating portion of this conversation is he outgraded both of our starting right guard and left guard for well over an entire year. Now, because we had 7, senior returning offensive linemen, I kind of understand to some degree him being a backup, but he was still grading out the starters and the seniors this year as well. But for whatever reason, we tried to convince him to take a red shirt. He didn't want to take the red shirt because when you're beating out the starters every single week, you'll feel like it's only a matter of time before they reward you with playing time. It wasn't happening. So he went back home, had a conversation with his family. They decided he was going to accept the red shirt. He comes back, and then we pull a fast one and say, oops, actually, just kidding. Even though we told you we need you to red shirt, we lied. We don't want you to red shirt. We actually would prefer you to play, but you're not going to play, but we want you to be ready to play. It was just it was a song and a dance, and it should come with a curse word, but I'm not going to throw it out there. It is very infuriating because Oklahoma State's failure this season was because of complacency, right? We had too many dudes that were coming back as upperclassmen that required the least amount of work from the coaching staff, so they were automatically thrust into starting roles, even if they were late, even if they sucked, even if they walked or jogged on the football field, as you can tell. I am very fired up about Jason Queso Brooks leaving Oklahoma State because he was the best interior offensive lineman that we had, and we threw him to the scrap heap. And then we tried to manipulate a red shirt scholarship, all of that crap around it. And it really is infuriating when that happens. I know that there is some, I don't want to say promises given to every school in the country, but you know how the recruiting game goes. I don't want to say promises may not be the right word, but you are giving a sales pitch on why you want the kid to return, right? And if part of your sales pitch is you need to come back because you were the best graded lineman we had all season, and then you don't play him, and then you maneuver the red shirt around him, it just, dude, I want to throw a bunch of people over it.
And I don't mean to say a single guard can change winning all that much. That's the great thing about football. It's a big team game. But the season he played a lot more in, it felt like y'all won a lot of games.
And Ollie Gordon rushed for almost 1,800 yards. Yeah, go figure that one.
Okay, so I'm not the only one drawing that connection here, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I'm not bitter about Queso leaving at all.
So I love offensive linemen that have nicknames tied to food.
Yeah.
Why Queso? What's the as the insider here? What's the Queso deal? What's the thought?
To be honest with you, and I've had several conversations with Jason, and I don't think I've ever even asked what the reasoning behind the nickname was. I would assume it had something to do with food, but that could be a far stretch.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more about it because we already have a center named Pancake. Right.
Oh, okay.
I think that may have a football/food combination there. We'll see. He first year starting was last year, and he's a young guy, so he'll I think grow into a big role at some point. But Queso Brooks, if you mentioned he's very, very good, and Ollie Gordon ran for a bunch of yards behind him. Is he a better run blocker than pass blocker? Like what's he do well?
Yeah, he's a run blocking individual. I would say, if there's going to be like an argumentative point here to maybe why Jason Queso Brooks wasn't, viewed as above the two guards that we had that started, was because he's not as technically sound as they were at times, but he's a road grader, dude. Like Jason Queso Brooks is the guy that will pick somebody up, carry him into the linebacker. He might get a 15-yard penalty occasionally because that's the way he plays the game. We needed some of that this season at Oklahoma State. We had a bunch of prima donnas getting a little bit of NIL money that had a successful season in 2023. We lost the physicality that is necessary to be a good running football team. Jason Queso Brooks was the physicality that we were bringing to the fold, and we just didn't use it. We went with, again, seniority that required the least amount of effort, which is probably why every single coach not named Mike Gundy has been fired, because the complacency was it's laziness, dude. That's what it is. Like, if you are having to develop younger guys, that means you're going to have to work later, right? You're going to have to do extra film preparation. Those are some of the things that we were willing to do in 2023 that we clearly were not willing to do as a staff in 2024. And guys like Jason Queso Brooks were the ones that did not get to reap the benefits.
Well, and that's fascinating. Again, you put all that time into him when he's young and then bench him when he's older. And again, he's a Houston area kid. So he's coming back. He went to Dobie High School and he's coming back home. I want to pitch an idea to you because you are, for the folks that Locked on Coogs and maybe don't know this, you are very actively involved in recruiting and 7-on-7 and those circles. You travel the country covering it and you talk a lot about it. So again, if people Locked on Coogs want to dive into it, at All Day O State's a good place to follow that. I have a crazy pitch here, and I don't know if it necessarily applies to a guard or not, but Houston's gotten a lot of Houston area kids to come back to Houston. It all seemed to simultaneously happen around the time that one Stephon Boogie Johnson, another Oklahoma State Cowboy in his past life, decided that he was going to return. I think a lot of people were surprised based on how poorly Houston threw the football last year that Boogie wanted to come back. I think it was very understandable. Like, hey, he needs to go get somewhere where he gets shown off and gets turned into a pro. And he said, actually, I'm going to do that here. And I'm going to have it seems like I'm going to have all these dudes come back. He and his father tweeted out pictures about he and Connor Wegman, like in 7-on-7 circles together and stuff like that, right? When they were little kids, right? In your experience, both with Boogie, his father does 7-on-7 stuff, and with just recruiting, how crazy of an outreach is that? A crazy leap to be making?
That more people want to come back to the Houston area because
that Boogie's involved in it, like that Boogie's as a character with the charismatics. Like, is he pulling people in? Is it people want to play with Boog?
Not only is it just playing with Boog, you mentioned the 7-on-7 connection. So one of the things that Stephon Johnson, Boogie's dad, does on top of the 7-on-7, the scouting and recruiting, he also puts on like combines. And part of the combines is he'll have meetings with parents to tell them what to expect in recruiting and why transferring could potentially be an option. And he breaks down all of the different nuances for parents and families that have nothing to do with on-field play. So because of that, even if people don't end up, playing with Boogie at any college particular destination, the fact that Boogie's dad and his entire staff with prospects have spent years giving people the right understanding of how to navigate the recruiting landscape, because it has changed entirely. And Boogie, when his dad does these seminars, he talks about the relationships being more important in the universities. It didn't used to be that way. And it's not just about chasing the NIL dollars. It's all about relationships. And you're seeing some of that with the transfer portal. Guys are following coaches that recruited them. Oklahoma State's getting it right now, right? We've got a bunch of SEC guys that have come to Oklahoma State in the last few weeks because Todd Grantham recruited them 5 years ago when they were at Florida, right? So even if they didn't land at Florida, the fact that he recruited them and Florida made his top 3, things of that nature, That's what Todd Grantham's bringing to Oklahoma State. That's what Boogie's dad does on a daily basis all across the country. So he can tell you about the analytical side of the game. He can help you break down film, but he can also explain to you, this is what recruits are looking for. This is what coaches are looking for. This is the conversations that you're supposed to be having. So you brought up Weigman. I'm sure at one point in time, he got very phenomenal advice from people in Boogie's camp that stuck with him even after the Texas A&M stuff.
Well, and again, I'm not saying anything, that shouldn't be happening is happening. It's just that like you're saying, his dad is involved in this world. He's a very personable guy. People on the team seem to like Boog. Like it all, I think it all clicks. And I don't mean to dig another knife in the Oklahoma State hole, but as a guy that would know these guys a little bit more personally, you're laughing at something. I'm not going to laugh at that. So I wanted to get your 2 cents on that, because I feel like it all started happening shortly after Boogie said he's coming back, and everyone kind of like, oh, Boogie's coming back. Like Houston lost another great receiver in Joseph Manjack to TCU.
Yes.
So I don't mean to say that every receiver did what Boogie did,
right?
But people very quickly like, oh, something's going to happen there. Let's see what that's about. Anyway, Cody, thank you for helping break down some of the crossover here between Houston and Oklahoma State as we're looking at the crazy landscape between schools here. I'm sorry I don't have a potential starter to talk to you about, although I'm not actually that sorry because that means we kept them.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no,
Again,
I think it's exciting what Houston is building, and I am very close to Boogie and his family, so I've paid attention to all of the things that he's doing at Houston, and offensively, could the wide receiver core have been utilized more effectively this season? I don't think anybody on the Houston sideline would argue that either, right? Was Donovan Smith the right choice? I don't know. But as the season progressed, it really didn't look like it. It looked like Chris maybe should have been the guy the whole time. And if Chris is the guy the whole time, what does the offense look like? So those conversations are naturally going to happen. But at the end of the day, they believe wholeheartedly in what Houston is doing and what they've built most recently. And the coach, we talked about Steve Lux, right? And basketball being a program builder that has a resume that indicates that. Well, Willie Fritz is the exact same thing. And I think that excitement around Houston is partially because of the fact that you can get the area guys to come back in, right? Houston has a lot of talent, but maybe because of geographically how far south it is, not every Big 12 school recruits Houston area. I don't know why, but it's true, dude. And Oklahoma State is one of them. We don't recruit the Houston area very heavily whatsoever. So there's going to be guys from around that area that left that are going to be able to be convinced to come back home, because most of the things that you can accomplish in the Big 12, you can do at any school. This is the only conference in the country where number 16 can beat number 1, and it's not like the craziest thing in the world. And because of that parity in the league, Houston can go from 16th to 1st, just like Arizona State did, just like Oklahoma State could.
Well, and frankly, we've also seen, like you're saying, that Arizona State can do it, and Houston beat a ranked Kansas State this year. They just had an epic bowl win of their own. It's a crazy and fun conference to follow. Cody, thank you for your insight on what the recruiting world looks like and what Jason Brooks looks like. It's again a weird pairing that Oklahoma State and Houston cross over in a couple of different ways there. Yeah. Looking forward to the basketball game Monday. Locked on Coogs here each and every day. Locked on Oklahoma State also here each and every day for all of your Cowboy or Cougar druthers. Thank you again for tuning in. Locked on Coogs, primarily Locked On Podcast Network with your team every day. And Cody, I always wrap with Go Cougs.
Oh, God bless, go Pokes. I'm with you, buddy.
Boom.